The best performing stock in my portfolio this year is not Wise, it's not Boogie Holdings, it's certainly not Lululemon, it is CELH. I'm up over 80% on CELH and it is over 7% on my portfolio. If I look at the stock today, I don't think it is undervalued anymore. It means that it is trading above its intrinsic value. And an important question that I should be asking myself, what do I do next? Is it time to take profits? Because if I take 80% profits right now for a stock that I invested in since last year, it seems to have been a great investment. But as I have seen in the past, I have made this mistake that I take profits too early. I'm sure you have committed this mistake too. And that's why today I want to give you the reasons why it's time to take profits on CELH and why it is not the right choice. Okay, about taking profits. If you're a value investor, you look for stocks trading below their intrinsic value. And then you take profits when it hits the intrinsic value. That's the concept of value investing. And if you asked me maybe 5 years ago whether I would have taken profits on CELH today, I would have said yes. But my views have changed. It's not that I have moved away from value investing, but now I think more in terms of Charlie Munger compared to Ben Graham. If you are calculating the intrinsic value of a company, this is the number you're giving based on your most conservative estimate, most conservative valuation of the company. That doesn't mean that you're right. Other people are going to calculate the intrinsic value. What really moves stock prices are narratives. You as the value investor, you need to focus on the fundamentals. But the fundamentals themselves, they are telling you a story. In the case of CELH, the story that the fundamentals told me, and I was pretty conservative about this, is that CELH today is a booming energy drink company, that there is a huge market, not just in the US but worldwide, for healthy energy drinks. CELH can leverage Pepsi, which is their partner, which is one of their investors. They can leverage the distribution network of Pepsi to expand exponentially internationally with little competition. That's why I invested in CELH. This is the story, and the numbers were matching the story. CELH is a company that doesn't require much capital to grow, to operate, because they were able to delegate all of that. So the numbers are telling that this story is true. I calculated the intrinsic value based on these numbers. I expect that CELH is going to grow at least for the next 5 years. I don't usually account for growth past 5 or 10 years depending on the company. I like to be conservative. And based on all of this, CELH is undervalued. Even though it is trading at 50 PE, it is undervalued based on my calculations. And it seems that I was right. The stock price went up. But now it is trading at a PE ratio of over 100. And based on my calculation of the intrinsic value, it is overvalued. But that doesn't mean I should sell, because now the narrative has changed. The market is seeing that really CELH is growing, and it can trade at 200 times earnings, 400 times earnings. We have seen that in larger companies. That doesn't mean that it won't happen. But what I need to consider as an investor, as a value investor, seeing that now it is trading above the intrinsic value, is whether I'm safe, whether I can sleep at night, knowing that I own so much of CELH, and 7% of my portfolio is okay for me. But if it was 20% of my portfolio and trading above intrinsic value, I would consider trimming my position, making it smaller. Because it's all about opportunity cost. What do you do with the cash? I'm just giving you a number. I'm not giving you the exact intrinsic value. I would like to do that here. If you want the exact intrinsic value, please check it on the Superinvestors Club, where I share all my research, all my analysis. But just to tell you, let's say CELH is trading at 115% intrinsic value. So now if I take profit on that, so in a way I'm taking profit, 15% profit, because I have converted it to cash. But what do I do with my cash? Where do I deploy it to have great returns when I know that CELH is a company, and it's not just about having a discount intrinsic value, it is also about growing the intrinsic value. And CELH is a company that can grow intrinsic value at a fast rate. It is a growing company. Of course, when it was trading at 50% intrinsic value, there was this discount. In a way, it had to eat this discount and you make a profit and then grow, let's say 20% a year. But now that it is above the intrinsic value, even if it is growing intrinsic value by 20% a year, your returns might be lower. It might be 15%. If we are not accounting for any expansion in multiples or anything, but knowing the market, there might be expansion in multiples. And also the story of CELH got better because of the Alani Nu acquisition. This is their main competitor. They acquired Alani Nu. And as I talk about on the Superinvestors Club, I believe it is a good acquisition at a good price that they made. Of course, multiples can also contract. What happens if CELH falls by 50%? From 7% of my portfolio, it falls to 3.5% of my portfolio. So I'm making a 3.5% loss, we can say. Am I willing to absorb this loss? Should I be worried? If the fundamentals do not change, I'm not worried at all. If the price dropped because of the same reason that happened last time, of misinterpretation of accounting, I'm not worried. This is how I think as an investor. I want to hold CELH long term because I believe 10, 15 years from now, I go to the grocery store on the island that I live where most people have never heard of, and I will see a CELH scan. I believe this can happen. Of course, if this happens, the intrinsic value of CELH at the time is very likely going to be much bigger than it is today, and consequently, the stock price too. This is what you need to think about. It's not just about taking profits when it meets your intrinsic value, because the intrinsic value you calculated, that's your bias. This is not the true intrinsic value. Nobody knows the true intrinsic value. If you want to learn more about why I love CELH so much, and I also talk about the acquisition of Alani Nu, I will recommend you watch this video next. Have a nice day and goodbye.